May 3rd was kind of a game-changing day for our family, definitely.
Had just really spent the whole day tidying and doing laundry, and was just waiting for the kiddos to come home like every other day. And Grant and I put the book down, and Tad came in and kind of heard a sound. I don't really know how to describe the sound. I immediately just was like, where's Joy? And, you know, that's kind of when life changed.
And I picked up the phone, and it was my husband, and he said, I'm on my way to Kyle and Amy's house. Joy was just hit by a car.
I was at work driving. I was down in Portland near Swan Island, and got a phone call. Tad had stated that Joy got hit by a car, and I'm thinking somebody bumped into her in the driveway or something. Tad seemed distant in his conversation. And so I'm asking again, so where was she? You know, where did she get hit by the car? And in the background, I could start to hear Amy screaming. So made it pretty real all of a sudden.
So she was what seemed like forever distance away from the mailbox, which is where she had been to go get the mail. And there was mail scattered everywhere, and she was knocked clear to in front of our neighbor's home. It was clear that Joy wasn't breathing and didn't look very good. I ran to my neighbor's house and pounded on his door. She was right in front of his house. It just felt like forever for any help to arrive.
My husband called again, and in a voice that was quite obviously trying to say strong for my sister-in-law, he said, Life Flight just took her away. All we know is that she has a pulse.
It definitely seemed like she was gone. They had radioed ahead and thought that she would not make it to the hospital. Right away, they were concerned with her brain swelling, and then her next injury was the neck injury. Her neck was so compromised that they had her head sandbagged onto her neck to stabilize her head and onto her body. Just an overwhelming thought of just love had flooded me for her, and just realization of how much I wanted her to live and be my girl. And I just am thankful that God gave me that picture of him having her in the palm of his hands right from the beginning. So Joy was in the ICU for approximately 3 weeks. Now her neck was stable, and it's amazing there, even as she wasn't fully alert and eyes not open, you could say, Joy, can you show me a peace sign? And she would give you a peace sign and a thumbs up.
They transferred us to Legacy Emmanuel Children's Hospital to start her rehab, start learning to talk and speak and walk and swallow and breathe and all that kind of stuff. And we had been there less than a week, and you know, you couldn't move her without vomiting. Finally, it was discovered that she had hydrocephalus, which was the brain was retaining fluid in your ventricles. So they went back to Dornbecker and did an emergency surgery to put in a shunt. And moments after coming out of anesthesia, she's moving her arm, scratching her eye, and trying to scratch her ear. I mean, huge movements after that. I mean, it was like someone hit a light switch in her recovery. there was no slowing down from it after that. I mean, for her it was like a sprint. It wasn't a marathon, it was a sprint.
When I woke up, I had been in the hospital for about a month.
Before she could verbalize, they tried to give her signs. Well, Amy had, they'd come up with kind of a hybrid of like symbols and gestures, but Amy had remembered that she had learned sign language, and so when Amy introduced that back to Joy, remembered it, knew it.
So first I was taught I love you, and then there was I really love you, and then my dad taught me, he just made up, I really love you with hugs.
How did I split my time between everything and the hospital? Initially, the first month, I didn't leave the hospital. Amy or I didn't. The second month, I started going back and forth between my folks' home, where our two other boys were, and the hospital. Pony Express had a more relaxing job than what I think I did. Not really feeling connected with the boys, not really wanting to be at work, but need to make money, and then not feeling connected to the hospital anymore. Those 3 months were hard.
So I think one of probably Joy's weakness right now is the rate or the speed at which she can do things. She can do everything, but things take longer. She's okay with being maybe not able to do things exactly how everybody else does them right now, and not be offended, not take it personally. There's times where she gets tired, but she also knows it's taking work to get back to her old self, is how she says it.
My life has changed because since I can't be as active, I can sit down with people and find out interesting stuff about them that I never knew, and I've known them for a while. Some of the things I am looking forward to do is running and playing tag, and going to a friend's house and playing a little soccer game.
10 months ago, I sat daily next to the bed of this lifeless, sleeping girl, holding her hand, reading to her, and wondering if this was as good as it was going to get. And now, 10 months later, she is texting me all day long, telling me about this shirt that she found at Target that looks exactly like some other shirt that I apparently have.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think most people, when we think about how we want our lives to go, we don't ever factor in, we want crisis. We want tragedy or things that'll bring hardship. Nobody wants those things. And yet, when you talk to anybody, especially somebody who has some mature years behind them, it is those things that develops who they are. It builds character. It builds perseverance. And I think because it breaks everything away from you except the very core of who you are. And I believe that God is in that core, and He's always whispering into our heart, I love you.
This is R in sign language, so we go random. A positive that came out of my accident is at school is that for a year and a little more, I don't have to run the mile, which is a good thing. It probably made me a little more mature, a little more than my brother.